What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. Now, before I even get into this video, if you probably noticed, but, we came out with a new thumbnail style. Shout out to everyone that was in the stream giving, kind of suggestions and stuff like that. Hopefully you guys like it. I think it gives a little bit more flair and pop to, whatever it is the topic is going to be in the video. But for this video, I'm going to be talking about the draft and what the Ravens need more, because there's a lot of debate in terms of positions as to, okay, what do the Ravens need the most? Some people say corner, some people say edge. Now, I'm going to preface this entire video by saying just because we may need a position more than the other doesn't mean no matter what, we should draft that in the first round. If a player like Jermaine Johnson, happens to fall to 14 and the cornerbacks that the Ravens want, if we think that corners are more important, don't just take the corner, right? Or if the edge rushers are gone, don't just take the edge rusher because you feel like you have to take edge rusher over corner. I'm just saying, what is the bigger need for the Baltimore Ravens, okay? Edge rusher versus corner. There's plenty of players. Guys, let me know what players you really like in this draft for them. But I'm also taking a look at in terms of first round rather than the entire draft, because I think it's relatively obvious that in terms of in the total draft, I think it's pretty clear that the cornerback position is more important in this draft. But that's not saying the first three picks should be corner. I'm saying in the first round, what is the more important position to get? Because we need depth at corner, right? We have more depth at edge than we do at corner. So later in the draft, getting edge rushers isn't as valuable as cornerbacks. So thinking about it from the first round, the Ravens at edge rusher, they have Odafe Oweh and they have Tyus Bowser. Those are their two main guys. They still have other players. They have Dalen Hayes coming back from injury. They have, Sack Daddy. Some people call him Slack Daddy. But, we have some players. And then at the cornerback spot, we obviously have Marlon and Marcus returning from injury. We have Amon Marshall, who is very limited. I'm a big fan of him. And then we have Khalil Dorsey. That's 4 cornerbacks. In my personal opinion, I believe that cornerback is more important. Not because they will be playing more, because obviously they would be behind 2 of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, but because a bad corner is more noticeable than a bad edge rusher, right? A bad edge rusher, yes, it sucks to not have a good edge rusher, because it ends up being, oh man, we can't get pressure. This is horrible. We go out there, we're not getting pressure. Then, the quarterback has 5-7 seconds to throw in the pocket. They make a big play, touchdown, big first down, whatever it is. Not having an edge pressure, it is really bad for your defense. However, having a bad cornerback on the field is one of the worst things that you can have on a defense. It may be the worst thing, especially when you're in a defense that consistently runs a lot of man coverage. Now, we are bringing in Mike McDonald. It's no longer Wink Martindale, but Mike McDonald, worked with Wink Martindale. Mike McDonald, doesn't want to change a ton in the system. He'll probably run a little bit of zone, but I'm expecting there to still be a lot of man coverage. Well, when you're running man coverage and you have someone that's really bad in man coverage, it's horrible. We probably saw 4 or 5 games this last season where the Ravens lost because they had one cornerback on the field that was targeted every play. There were games where it was Anthony Averett. There were games where it was, plenty of other players. I don't want to just single out Anthony Averett. But at the beginning of the year, Anthony Averett was the guy that was getting targeted, and teams were just beating him. Why? Because they felt like he wasn't good enough. If we don't, let's say we have Marlon and Marcus. They're great, right? They're covering the top 2 wide receivers. Well, Khalil Dorsey, you're going to target him. You're going to target him almost every single time, especially if you're a team that has 3 solid wide receivers, right? If you're looking at it from the perspective of even the Raiders, right? They have Devontae Adams. He'll be covered by Marlon or Marcus, but then you have a Hunter Renfrow as a slot player. Well, who are the Ravens putting in the slot? They're probably going to want Marlon on Devontae. So all of a sudden it's okay, Renfrow's going to be open in a large chunk of that game. It's going to be very difficult. So I feel like edge rusher, even though it's very valuable to a team, having good edge pressure, it's more valuable from the individual standpoint of cornerbacks. But as a group standpoint, the edge is more important. But we already have 2 edge players that can get to the quarterback. Now, are they the greatest in the NFL? No. The Ravens do not have a TJ Watt. They don't have a Myles Garrett. Hopefully Odafe Oweh turns into one of those caliber of players. But overall, bringing in another edge rusher, they will be in that mix. And I still think we fully should draft an edge rusher. If there's a good edge rusher available, take him in round 1. I need to preface that because, I think me saying that I think corner is more important doesn't mean that I'm not okay with taking an edge rusher. I want the Ravens to trade up and draft Kayvon Thibodeau. You guys know this. It's not when I talk about trading up, it's not to get Sauce, it's not to get Derek Stingley, it's to get Thibodeau. I would love any of those players, but Thibodeau is my number 1. Trayvon Walker is a phenomenal player. I would love to get Trayvon Walker. So it's very difficult to analyze what you think the Ravens should do because there's just so many different players. But cornerback overall, I believe, is more important. Okay? Because when we go out there this season, we are going to have two elite players, but they're coming back from injury. So it may take them a little bit back to get into football shape, to get into, okay, we're at 100%. May take them a little bit. Well, if we're throwing out there 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks, that's going to be very bad. So I think it's more important for us to take cornerback early than it is edge rusher. Because if we don't take an edge rusher in the first, let's say, 3 rounds, it wouldn't be amazing. However, we could still draft a player in the 4th round that could come in and teams wouldn't be able to expose him when he's on the field. Whereas if we wait until round 4 to draft a cornerback, nothing against the round 4 cornerbacks. I like a lot of players that could slip into the 4th round. Joshua Williams is one of my favorite players in this draft class. However, if he becomes our number 3 cornerback, that's not going to bode well. That's not going to bode well whatsoever. That is not a recipe for success. That is not a recipe to have a good time on a Sunday. All right, you need to make sure that you have players that can go out there and play. And historically, 1st-round cornerbacks are actually pretty solid, and they are able to make, an impact from day 1. Now, are they going to come out and be Jalen Ramsey? No, generally not. But plenty of times in the last 5 years, rookie cornerbacks have come out and played really well. Look at the Baltimore Ravens when they drafted Marlon Humphrey. Marlon didn't get a lot of opportunity behind Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith, but when he was out there, he was locking people up. I firmly believe he was the best player at covering Antonio Brown. His rookie season, he was incredible on Antonio Brown. And then the Ravens put Brandon Carr on him. He beat Brandon Carr. The Steelers won the game, whatever. Marlon Humphrey was doing work. Marshawn Lattimore came in, very phenomenal player, as a 1st-round pick to the New Orleans Saints. Even last year, guys like Patrick Surtain were very good last season, at covering people. Even like Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs took a year, but last year he was pretty good. Now, I think he's a little bit overrated because he was horrendous in coverage, but he gets a lot of interceptions, but he's not a bad player. And he was able to make at least an impact in his first 2 seasons. Whereas edge rusher, a lot of the edge rushers, sometimes it's, they need to develop. I have nothing against Odafe Oweh, but he was a player that we drafted, and it was he's going to take some time. He's a little bit inexperienced. There are players in this draft that are they may take some time. Even a guy like David Ojabo, who is coming off of an injury, he's going to take some time to rehab. Some people believe Kayvon Thibodeau may take some time. I disagree. I think Thibodeau will be a monster from day 1. But cornerback is more important to get at that elite level early. Because I feel like the Ravens are better at drafting edge rushers later than they are at cornerback. Nothing against the Ravens cornerbacks they've drafted. Anthony Averett was solid. Iman Marshall, I am a fan of. There's plenty of players. Maurice Kennedy, a few years back out of University of Virginia. There's players. But the edge rusher is much more prominent, right? Dalen Hayes looked phenomenal last year. His technique was unbelievable. Nobody expected him to be as good as he was prior to injury. You can look back at Matthew Judon. You can look back at Zadarius Smith. You can look back at a lot of players that the Ravens brought in at edge, and there's much more late-round edge rush players that the Ravens had success with than they did with corners. But they've been pretty good at drafting corners relatively early. Example, Marlon Humphrey was their most recent player. So I feel like, in my personal opinion, the Baltimore Ravens have a bigger need at corner. And they have a bigger need in the first round at corner because they need an instant impact guy at corner more than at edge rusher. While it would be great to have an instant impact player on edge, not having one isn't allowing for as much exploitation of the Ravens defense than it is if they don't get an instant impact cornerback with their, one of their early selections. Now, I'm not here to talk about which players I think they should draft. I'm a huge fan of a lot of players in this draft, but at corner, I like Booth, I like Stingley, I like Sauce. McDuffie is solid, Petrie is solid, Tariq Woolen, solid. There's plenty of players. There's plenty of edge rushers too. It's a deep draft, but in my opinion, let me know what you guys think. I think corner is the bigger need than edge rusher. But both are needs, but I think corner's better. However, at the same time, I need to say this one more time. Just because a position is more valuable doesn't mean you have to blindly draft that position. If the top cornerbacks are gone, take an edge if there's a really good edge available. If neither of them, if all of the players are gone, all of the top 4 corners and 4 edge rushers are all gone, honestly, you could trade back, or that means another position is available. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it's a tackle, or, someone falls. Hey, go for them. As long as it's not a quarterback. That's the biggest thing. So, guys, let me know what you guys are thinking about the Ravens draft. What's the biggest importance in terms of the draft position-wise? Thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. Let me know what you guys think about the new thumbnail style, and I will see all of you again tomorrow with a new episode of the Trust the Bank podcast.